pom-pom girls.
Oh, Jesus. Not again.
It's not about the girls, exactly. It's just that I don't want that to be attractive for the girls or for the audience. It's like a wound looking at them. It hurts. It's like watching innocence being tainted and then stolen.
Seriously?
Yes, seriously. And don't you dare tell me that I'm losing my sense of humor because I don't think that ogling teenage girls should be considered a sport.
Every once in a while.
Go on.
Every once in a while you begin these lamentations. Lil, honey, you live in a world with pom-pom girls. There will always be pom-pom girls.
I know what kind of world I live in, and I don't want to make this a huge deal, but if that was the attitude that everyone had, we'd still be drinking tea every afternoon and speaking with British accents.
Oh, that's certainly not making it a big deal.
Don't you ever feel like you want to spread your arms and spin around until you've shaken off one world and entered another? Until you found a portal to a place where
there aren't any pom-pom girls?
I was watching the Today Show this morning, and Matt says, "We hate to bring you the story," and proceeds to tell us about a little girl who gets abducted and murdered by a stranger. And my thought was, then don't. If you hate to bring it to us, then don't. Then he interviews a police officer and gives a little timeline of the events and says to the officer, "I hate to place any blame, but 40 minutes seems like a long time to have passed before the police were called." And again, I think, then don't. Don't blame anyone but the pedophile, maniac, nutbar who took this little girl and did God knows what to her before he killed her. And then he goes on to interview the mother and the sister. The mother doesn't speak English, so the daughter is translating. They both look like they've been dragged through knot holes all night. And that was when I said to myself, that's enough. I don't need this stuff in my brain.
And did you say to yourself you didn't want to live in a world with pedophile maniac nutbars?
You know why I didn't say that to myself? That's curious, isn't it? Maybe I think that's a given. Maybe I know that that's the kind of world I live in.
And maybe pom-pom girls soften that world for the rest of us.
What are my sins?
Don't be so dramatic.
What are they?
Well, that's really up to you, isn't it?
But you have a list, don't you?
I thought we were building something. But what really happened was I helped you build something and then I wasn't invited in.
I didn't know we were building. I thought we were still deciding on what to use for the foundation.
Well, that's part of the problem, isn't it? I was always further along.
Further along? You were dragging me by the collar. Couldn't you hear me begging you to slow down? You always wanted me to be somewhere I wasn't, someone I wasn't. And I wasn't good at telling you I couldn't do what you wanted me to do, couldn't be who you wanted me to be. That's the sad part. It's like when two people are talking, but their mouths are pointed in the wrong direction, and you know they're saying something, but you can't hear the actual words, and you just get tired of saying, "What? What?" all the time, so you just stop speaking and start thinking about how to get out with the most amount of both of you intact.
Those are your sins.
Yes,
I didn't come out very intact.
I'm sorry for that.
You warned me. You said that you weren't easy to love. I dismissed you with a shaking head, thought you were protesting too much, thought you were just scared.
Scared for you, not for myself.
I blame you.
I know.
I have had actual moments of hating you.
Only moments?
You hurt me.
That wasn't my intention.
What was your intention?
To see if I was capable. It had been a long time. I wanted to try. I do. I love you. I'm sometimes better with the idea of something than the thing itself. I liked the idea of loving you. But when you were beside me and it was time to ante up to build something, I knew I didn't have the right tools. I should have just told you. But I thought I should try harder, that I owed you that.
I will tell horrible stories about you.
Everyone's stories are true.
I will get some of our friends to choose me over you.
If you have to.
What will you do?
I will tell my own stories.
What will you say?
I will say that you blame me for taking when all you did was give. I'll say I didn't know what you wanted me to do.
I wanted you to give back.
There wasn't any room for that. You took up all the room. All that was left was for me to slip out of a window.
Don't you blame me for this.
Every time I did something, you did more.
I stepped over my line all the time for you.
And you're blaming me for that?
Yes.
But isn't that what you do every time? In every relationship, isn't that how you are?
It is how I am.
So was there anything I could have done to stop you?
Probably not.
So if I had had the right tools...
I know where you're going with this. Logic is not what is required here.
Our things don't match. You need someone who will stop you, and I need someone who will wait for me.
I may never be able to forgive you.
You will need the room not forgiving me takes up to love someone else someday.
Someone told me once that success lies on the far side of failure.
I guess that puts us on a road.
I guess it does.
So, I'm talking to this guy from my new potential life insurance company. And he's running down his lists of things like heart disease and diabetes and do I smoke and this and that. Then he runs down this list of illicit drugs and asks if I've ever used any of them. And I blurt out, ever? I mean, I'm a baby boomer, for Christ's sake. Did anyone in the whole world believe President Clinton when he said he used marijuana but didn't inhale? So I'm thinking I should just lie like everyone else. But then I think it's just wrong to lie, totally blatantly lie. Exaggerate, underestimate, flat out not remember, but to say no when the answer is definitely yes just isn't right.
So, you said yes to using illicit drugs to an insurance company guy who's going to record that in some universal data file for anyone to retrieve forever?
I told the guy I smoked some pot in college.
I would have lied, just said no.
Just because you can get away with it is not a good reason to lie.
You think this is about integrity, don't you?
I do.
It's not. It's about getting insurance. They expect you to lie about the things they can't prove. They can find the medical stuff. They can only find out if you're doing drugs if you test positive for something when they draw blood or do a urinalysis. The guy probably got off the phone and told his buddies he actually had someone admit to smoking pot in college 20 plus years ago.
So, you don't think they'll deny me for that?
No. They might ask for some slight testing, though.
I've felt really bad about this for days. I felt like telling the truth has hurt my chances to provide protection for my family. But I have to sign that thing at the end that says, these statements are true to the best of my knowledge. I'm only as good as my word. I do believe this is about integrity. I understand it's risk analysis for them, but they should understand who it is they're insuring. Not just my medical history, but fundamentally who I am. I don't purposely lie. I love my wife. I hope my girls get better jobs than my boy when it comes time for them to start their careers if their wages will still only be a percentage of the dollar he makes. This isn't just about getting life insurance. This is about the way I live my life.
My life is made of paper. Everything I've ever said out loud, I've written down first.
In this conversation,
I'm working from an outline.
so the word spontaneous has never been used to describe you.
I think heedful or circumspect,
What?
how people have described me.
Oh,
My sister told me once that I wasn't sentimental. Then I showed her my file folders, marked cards and letters where I keep words people have given me. It is from these words that I've molded myself.
molded yourself into paper?
No, paper has molded me. Books, letters, even blank sheets bring a kind of tranquility. They represent opportunity and proportion, possibility.
Tell me again, what am I here to do?
You are here to help take these boxes to the dumpster.
What's in the boxes?
Did you know people are made up of over 70% water?
I thought it was 90%.
Well, 90's over 70, isn't it?
Yes, I'm sorry, go ahead.
People are made up of over 70% water, but it's not like it's just sloshing around inside of us like waves and can be spilled out at a moment's notice in case of emergency.
What emergency? What's sloshing? And I'm not sure what you're talking about. And what's in the boxes?
I'm afraid I've become afraid.
Of what?
If you believed that your life was made of paper, what would be the one thing you would fear most?
The internet?
Think.
Fire?
Yes. I have asked you to come here today to take the paper out of my life. All of it. Even the blank sheets.
Even the files marked cards and letters?
Even those.
But if your life is made of paper, and the paper gets taken away, what will become of you?
I thought if my paper caught on fire, I could throw myself on top of it. You know, because people are over 70% water, and that would save my paper. But then I realized it doesn't work like that the water in my body wouldn't, you know, the sloshing reference from earlier.
How about just using the fire extinguisher in the kitchen?
You're not listening.
I'm not comprehending.
When I started to be afraid of fire, I knew I wasn't right.
It's right to be afraid of fire.
I heard that people want two things from life. To know they are well loved, and to know they're loved well.
And what does that have to do with throwing yourself on a fire?
Will you help me take the boxes out, or won't you?
I will, but...
Don't you see? When I looked through the cards, and letters files, and all my paper filled with words, I realized I had the two things.
The two things?
I have the two things that people want in their lives.
You have the two things, so you don't need the paper.
Correct.
But even without the paper, there could be a fire. Aren't you still afraid of that?
No,
Why not?
because I know what I'll do.
And what will you do?
I'll put it out with the fire extinguisher from the kitchen.
When the paper's gone, what will your life be made of?
It'll be made of what it's always been made of.
Paper?
No.
What then?
It'll be made of what I decide it's made of.
And what will that be?
I don't know, air maybe, or maybe light, or that metal they make planes out of.
Titanium?
That's the one.
How about skin and corpuscles?
Oh, definitely not.
Why not?
Because then I would be afraid of everything.
What if there was one more or one less table in this restaurant?
I don't know what.
No, really. Really, think about it.
Oh, I'm sorry, I thought it was a riddle or a joke or something.
You're not even trying.
I don't want there to be more than one trying person in this conversation.
It's an exercise. It's existential, or more accurately, architectural.
Okay. But I don't ever want to hear you say I wasn't a good sport. One more or one less table, right?
Yeah.
Give me a minute.
It would be all wrong, right? The whole balance of the place would be off. One more, not enough flow. One less, cavernous. Am I right? Seriously, just look around. The whole place would be in disarray. Disarray. One more, carnivorous. One less.
Cavernous?
Yeah.
Yeah. You gonna let me answer now?
Yes.
Okay. Now, I don't think that space is so fragile a thing that one table, more or less, will break it like some sort of camel's back. That being said, I can't do this.
What do you mean?
I mean, I can't just play like that. I need more information. Is it a two-person table or a four? If they took out all the chairs and put in booths, where would your chi be then?
It's just a game, Ange.
I know, but games have rules, and I happen to like rules.
You like order.
And you must too if you think that one table, more or less, will throw this whole place into such disarray.
Every day I walk around and I think, what if this or what if that? You know, what if my boss called me into her office to tell me she had to lay me off? Or what if the bus didn't come? Or what if I won $1 million? I like to gauge my reaction, meter out the right response.
Why is that?
I don't like surprises, good or bad. I don't like the expectancy in the eyes of the teller. When I was in high school, my counselor called me into her office to tell me I had received this particular scholarship. When we had sent it off, I believed I would get it. I thought I deserved it. She kept telling me I was a shoo-in, so when she told me I won, I sort of had a shoulder-shrugging response. She seemed so disappointed in me, like I was an ingrate. I was grateful for her help, but I was confident I would get it, so I was just kind of like, okay, we did it. I don't understand why people act so surprised when you believe what they tell you. I guess I just don't know how to please people.
You know, sometimes pleasing people is overrated. And sometimes it's as simple as saying, thank you.
I'm starving. I hope they call us next.
You know, if there was one more table in here, we'd be eating by now.
Thanks. Are you happy, Dad?
What is it you're always telling me? That everything is constructed? Doesn't that just mean made up?
Yeah, basically. Are you saying that happiness is a constructed thing?
I don't know all that theory stuff. It's what you dwell on.
What do you mean?
We buried my brother today. He and I never once talked about whether or not we were happy. We chose wives. We chose work. We were blessed with children. We made decisions and we lived with them.
Kind of like the way Mom would pick up the wine by the picture on the bottle?
What the hell are you talking about? Little girl, pictures on wine bottles have nothing to do with life decisions and commitments.
I'm like you.
How's that?
I was walking home the other day and I saw a chair in the curb. It was in good shape, a recliner. I thought I would look good in my living room. You know how I pride myself in not buying things new, contributing to the economy. It was dark out. I was 5 blocks from home. When I got to the front door of my apartment building, I realized I still had to get it up 3 flights of stairs. By the time I plopped down in it in my living room, I was wheezing and bloody and sweaty like I had just finished a rugby tournament.
You're not like me. That's just pure craziness. I'm not talking about picking up other people's crap off the street. I'm talking about making a commitment and sticking to it. What exactly was your commitment to that chair? You're stubborn, that's all. That's all that story is about.
But you said all that stuff about no matter what.
I didn't say it was a good thing. I was telling you how I've lived my life. If you had asked me if I'd had any regrets, I might have given you the same answer. If I could teach you anything, I would teach you when to quit. Teach you to leave other people's crap on the street and walk into a store with your damn credit card. You can say it's a source of pride to not participate in the economy, but we're the same. We arrange things in our heads so that we can swallow them without having to throw back a quart of gin to make sure they stay down. I say it's good to be a man of my word, and you say whatever it is you say about the way you think, but we don't think we deserve anything better. Most of the time, we feel as stuck as a rodent on a sticky board trap.
So I guess you're not happy then.
I drive down this little street on my way to the freeway on my way home from work every night. For 3 houses toward the end of the block, there are men sitting in lawn chairs in garages. Every night, each one sitting alone in his own garage. One smokes, 2 wear brimmed hats.
What do you make of that?
It seems peaceful. Them just sitting there.
Watching the lawn grow.
My grandfather used to sit on a wooden crate in the backyard. He'd just sit there with the slightest hint of a smile on his face. Work gloves on, hat pushed back on his head, brim at a 60-degree angle.
Where is he now?
He died a long time ago.
Sorry.
I still miss him every day. I would visit him at the nursing home. He was wasting away. You know, it looked like the mattress was swallowing him. He had this collection of stuffed animals on his bedside table, each named after his grandkids.
Which one were you?
The raccoon, and I don't know why.
So, what do you think old men think about?
My grandfather thought about my grandmother. She died a year before he did. I went to visit him one Saturday afternoon and he said, "Boy, I want you to take me for a drive. I want you to drive real fast. I'll open up the door and roll out. It'll look like an accident." He had this twinkle in his eye every time she walked into the room. He told me he spent 72 years and nothing could cure what ailed him until he saw her again. When I told him that I loved him but I couldn't take him for that drive, he thought about it for a while and he got this twinkle in his eye and he said, I guess that'll be all right. And then we just sat there, together, alone, all quiet, just looking out the window.
What did you think about?
I thought about how I used to think I knew something about love.
Yeah. Everywhere I go, I see these signs that say, please silence your cell phones. It's like we are so desperate to be available that we can't just relax and enjoy a nice movie or a restaurant. God, I hate that. Do you remember when phones used to be mounted on the wall and connected by an 18-inch long cord? Yeah.
We have all these instant ways of reaching each other, and still we can't communicate. I'm just 7 or 11 digits away from anyone at any given moment, which is so totally closer than 6 degrees of separation.
Mm-hmm.
And the most used word in the English language is
How did you know that thing about
My head is filled with useless facts.
Cesspool of general knowledge.
Right, like, did you know that the praying mantis is the only insect that can turn its head?
No,
I mean, what is the point of knowing something like that?
I don't know. Trivia Pursuit?
Funny, I thought we were having a serious conversation.
We were, until you started with the useless insect facts.
What do you want to talk about?
Well, an interesting thing happened to me the other day. I was standing at my kitchen window thinking about nothing when all of a sudden I see a robin hopping through the yard. Now, I don't think anything of it until all of a sudden that robin is rocking and bucking backwards, and I realize that robin has hold of a worm. Now, I don't know how a worm holds on, but that old girl was fighting for every inch. I, of course, am pulling for the worm.
You're all about the underdog, aren't you?
Of course, anyone can root for the one most likely. Anyways, I am grimacing every time that robin yanks on that little worm. I am rocking my body like I was at one of my son's wrestling meets. Hang on, old girl! I am yelling out loud in my kitchen. And she did. That robin flew away, empty-beaked.
How was that possible?
You mean you don't have the answers stored up in one of those fact files in your brain?
I wish I knew something that important. It might be worth gathering up my words, erasing from my vocabulary, and calling someone on their cell phone.
Cell phones should be reserved for calling someone to say you're running late or changing your plans at the last minute.
Sometimes I think I've watched too many commercials.
And the result of that is?
That you start to believe that things are easy.
The other day, I saw this bumper sticker that said, The best things in life aren't things. And I was so grateful to that person for buying that sticker and putting it on their car to remind me.
Do you forget?
Not as such, it just gets pushed to the side while I'm trying to fill myself up.
It reminds me of that song by Stay.
I love that song. I love how the choir comes in and changes the whole mood and rhythm of it.
Doesn't it seem that rhythm is the most perfectly spelled word in our language? I mean, you can never be sure with all that I before E except after C business, but rhythm just seems so right on a gut level.
Are you dipping your toe in that cesspool again?
No, I'm actually expressing an opinion.
Oh, well, that's proof then.
Of what?
That you don't watch too many commercials.
And how is that?
A person who watches too many commercials cannot have an original thought.
I am filing that away for the next summer plate trivial pursuits.
Great, and I will call you on your cell phone if I ever figure out how that worm stopped from being baby bird food.
That sounds like a good reason to leave my cell on.
I was just sitting there, listening to her talk about her anger, sadness about the war, or her daughter's adventure in Alaska or something. We were having dinner, the four of us, and I wanted to reach over and touch her hair.
Why? What were you thinking?
It seemed like a prize or something. Have you ever been to someone's home when they have trophies in a room or medals? Your natural inclination is to pick it up. You want to hold it in your hand, feel the heft of it. You want to know when they got it and for what.
Well, yes, of course. But what does that have to do with her hair?
I waited in a room while the surgeon cut out the tumors. I sat with her through the chemo, the fear, the courage, and the quiet strength. I watched when she started wearing wigs and losing her eyebrows. She tried to describe the tiredness, the body aches, and how mortal she felt, but I knew and she knew that I had no idea what she was going through.
And the hair.
I wanted to hold it in my hands, feel the heft of it.
I get that. But why?
I thought I explained it already. It was hers, you know, her real hair. She had won it. It was her gold medal. I like to walk in the winter.
Why?
Anyone can walk when it's nice out. But add the elements and the sidewalks empty out, become a place for the hardy. I like it when the sky is still blue and the trees are black. Crescent of a moon with Venus right beside. The streetlights just coming on.
Conditions.
Not the biting north wind. Something softer. A butter knife of a breeze. And breath going out of me in cloud shapes.
Precipitation.
Falling snow. Big flakes catching in the eyelids. Crunching sound underfoot.
Companionship.
With rare exception, I walk alone.
Thoughts.
None when I'm doing my meditation. With each step I think about the breath. With each step a word. Now, 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 now. Later, when the mind is unleashed, something unbidden starts. Snapshots. Is wanting the same as striving. Friends who are far and near, wondering if the heat of a cigarette keeps the face warm. Lately, a craving for a bentwood rocker, but refusing to go on Craigslist.
What catches your eye?
I smile at any passerbys and their dogs. I watch cars. My college friends from Chicago taught me to pay attention. I look in windows, see wall colors, lights, people living lives. I don't really know what I'm seeing. Don't know what the eyes and the smiles hide or don't hide. Life is a thing, you know, solid, liquid, gas, magnificent, contemptible all at once. There are portions of moments where I am seized, where I feel this fear and this hatred and this panic, and I wonder what I'm supposed to do and what will become of me, of us, of all of us. Unemployment rates still high, the terrible things people say and do because they're drunk or crazy or traumatized or all of the above. Cancer and bird flu in Congress and all this war and all this killing. Men in shopping malls with assault rifles, boys in basements with ropes around their necks, girls with razor blades in lonely houses.
And then what?
A desire, I guess.
For what? To do what?
To stand here and still in my inner turmoil and all other turmoil and breathe.
And then?
Call it what it is.
What is it?
It's life.
That's it? You name all these horrible things and then you just shrug your shoulders and say that's life?
I never said anything about shrugging my shoulders.
What then? What do you do?
I realize that the true nature of life is that it is challenging and uncertain, and I try not to add to the suffering, my own or the suffering of others.
How do you do that?
I believe these are my moments, and I try to not want to be anywhere else. I let the good and the bad wash over me, and I try to put more love and kindness into the world than fear and hate.
That's it.
What more is there?
There's wishing to be happy and content, secure. Ever hear of Maslow?
If I'm always wishing that I'm not here. A friend of mine told me I should abandon hope.
Oh, that's uplifting.
It is.
How does that work?
She meant that I should live in the present moment. That whatever that moment brings is the lesson I need to learn.
And what lesson do those kids in those lonely houses need to learn?
Look, I don't know why there's suffering. I only know that there is. And if that is accepted as a fact of living, then it makes it less difficult in getting stuck in wishing that it wasn't true. And about those kids, I don't know what they need to learn. I only know I want them to be hardy enough to stick around long enough to learn it.
We are here because there is no refuge from ourselves. Until we confront ourselves in the eyes and hearts of others, we are running.
I think you have the wrong idea. I'm not the kind of runner with the gear. You know, the Lycra shorts with the cool Max liner, the $1 million shoes, the watch, the amazing watch that does everything. It's a smartphone. It's a stopwatch. It plays music. It can even calculate the amount of shit in your colon so you know your actual weight. I run from people, I guess. That's what she told me. I didn't know. I thought I was an anthropologist. You know, relationships is culture. Observe, make note, move on. Call me Margaret Mead.
Anthropology, for those of you who don't know, is the study of human beings, their origins, physical and cultural development, social customs and beliefs. And Margaret Mead, she was one of our best.
We're standing in the living room, my stuff all still in boxes and stacked up on the edge, her stuff all put away. We moved in together about a month ago. She looks at me and says, "You're not going to unpack, are you? You're not going to stay." She said, "You're going to run." I said, "Look at what I'm wearing." I pointed down at my short black glam boots with the sensible heel. "I can't run in these." She didn't laugh. She didn't even smile. There was just this almost imperceptible shake of her head back and forth, and maybe a distant cracking noise. Sometimes the humor thing just doesn't work.
It's a deflection.
Sometimes you have to listen and contemplate your options.
We all come from people and customs. We build ourselves around tenets which are, of course, true for us, but which may not be based in any kind of reality. This is what makes people interesting and maddening at the same time. This appears to be a slippage in the trust versus mistrust stage of development. A caregiver was unpredictable, lots of chaos perhaps, the adrenals overflowing with fight versus flight hormones. It's sad, really. She seems like such a nice woman, and they really are a cute couple.
I wasn't going to unpack.
Of course she wasn't going to tell Sarah that. It's more likely she would keep her fears and misgivings to herself. Again, trust versus mistrust.
I wasn't going to say anything. I just kept going to work, coming home, saying I was tired, which I was. We'd eat something, go to bed. I wasn't lying. It's just, even though it felt good to be beside her, to touch her, I was looking for a way out.
It's fear, pure and simple.
I wasn't really afraid.
It's fear, pure and simple. And now, denial.
It's hard when people love me. It's confusing. It mixes me all up in my head. I never felt loved at home, and I hear myself say that, and I can rattle off like 100 other people who had childhoods way worse than I did.
Some people use their upbringings as excuses for not being where they want to be. But even these excuses are kind of a defense system, a way of holding back. Sometimes the damage is too much for anyone to recover from. There are too many hunks missing to ever be made whole.
Growing up, I felt like nobody got me. It was hard, you know. I just wanted someone to touch me, not sex. Just look me in the eye and wrap me up in their arms like I was actually there. And then Sarah comes along and we talk, and I get this foreign feeling. It's like indigestion, but further down. It's like something is boring a hole into my soul, and it's familiar, but not something I've ever experienced. Maybe I saw it in a movie. It's like a wish, like something I have written on an imaginary Christmas list for 37 years and never received.
This is the difficult part. She wants to be loved, but she's frightened of it at the same time. Love feels like pain. Some children who never felt loved by their families believe that no one else can love them. They believe that no one else will love them, that they are essentially unlovable.
I guess I always figured there was something wrong with me. That's why my parents couldn't love me. Someone told me they had a friend who had to be on a constant morphine drip because her mind sent out the signal that she was always in gut-wrenching pain. Maybe that's what it was like for my mom and dad when they looked at me.
Some children blame themselves for their parents' inability to show their love. It's about control, really. It's a question for the child of which world would you rather live in? A world where parents don't love their children,
or a world where there's something wrong with the child. It's just too scary to live in that first world. But if there's something wrong with the child, maybe that can be changed. For example, he or she could change the way they act, perhaps eliciting a different parental response. Hence, a world where the child believes there's something wrong with him or her constitutes hope.
Sarah tells me that I hold on to things that aren't real, that it wasn't my fault that they couldn't love me, that maybe they just couldn't love me the way I needed to be loved. I say, have you been reading self-help books again, honey? This really pisses her off because 1, she has a kind of highbrow taste in books, and 2, I don't fight fair.
I've recently been reading about how different animals protect themselves. The snarling, the showing of teeth, the advancing and retreating, etc. The most interesting is the 3-banded armadillo. Now, all armadillos have leathery armored shells, but the 3-banded armadillo has these hinged bands with which they can roll themselves into a ball, and there's no way in for a predator.
I'm still fuming over that holding on to things that aren't real comment. Aren't real, I say. Aren't real for who? Or whom? I say this is real. If I forge ahead in this relationship, I stop. What will happen? She says. I freeze. It's like I can feel myself curling into a ball.
She's probably feeling very backed into a corner right now. It's fight or flight time.
I'm not scared. I'm terrified. If you give up your secrets, they have more to hurt you with.
Ah, of course.
We're standing in the living room. I'm backing up. She's coming towards me. I'm not gonna hurt you, she says. But everything hurts, you know? It's like I am pulling out my fingernails with my own teeth and I can taste my own blood. I don't know how to talk to you if you won't, to help you if you won't talk to me, she says. She had stopped moving towards me.
A number of years ago, I rescued a dog from the Humane Society, a skittish little thing. Whenever she would encounter something that was unfamiliar to her, she would stop in her tracks and run in the opposite direction, barking and advancing and then retreating. Sometimes a plastic bag would swirl around in front of us and I would end up just dragging her past it. This felt a little abusive, so I tried to figure out something to help her. So I started saying, "Big, brave girl," and urging her along with a little tug on the leash. She was hesitant, but I kept saying, "Big, brave girl," over and over, and soon she began to walk with me. Sometimes she would even go to the object and sniff it.
She asked me to answer the question, if I forge ahead in this relationship, ... Doesn't she know it's not that simple? Doesn't she know I want to tell her what's going on in my scary mind? I don't want to always feel like I'm trudging around wearing so much armor, feeling like she could kill me if I'm not careful. You have to talk to me, she says.
Big, brave girl.
In my last relationship, I just kept getting treated badly. And I kept thinking that she would be different, hoping that she would wake up and realize that I was a treasure. A treasure. I need to sit down. I've never said that out loud before. I tell her the worst thing you can do right now is say that I'm a treasure.
Okay.
I don't trust people. I want to, you know. It would be so nice to have a thought, look you in the eye, and then say it without the constant rewrites and perseverations, to hear it in the air and then edit it if it didn't come out exactly right.
That would be okay with me too.
If you don't get me,
Help me get you.
Big, brave girl.
I'm scared that essentially, fundamentally, inexorably, there is something wrong with me that makes me unlovable. And if I run first, I won't ever know that for certain. It won't ever be confirmed.
This is the belief that she has to learn to live without. She has to replace it. But the trouble is, it's part of her foundation. Everything could crumble until she decides what to put in its place.
If you forge ahead in this relationship, what will happen?
I have a friend who says there are certain things that you cannot do alone.
Like being in a relationship?
I tell her about my fears, and she asks me, are you more afraid that they're true or they're not true?
Which is it?
If I forge ahead in this relationship and my fears are not true, I'll be lost.
I think you're trying.
I told you that would be the worst thing.
You don't really get to decide what I can say or can't say.
I have built my life around a certain belief. That belief explodes if you continue to treat me
I
well.
am going to treat you well.
What do you expect me to do about it?
You could try to believe it's what you've deserved all along.
I want to run.
Sure you do.
If she runs now, she probably will never stop running. There are 5 fundamental questions that she has to answer for herself. Where do you want to be? Has the thing I've always done gotten me what I've wanted? Is it possible that it could be different this time? Can I change? Do I have the courage to take a risk even if it doesn't turn out exactly the way I want it to?
I want to believe that it can be different this time, that there's something different about me, that I have tucked something away for this moment, that I don't have to do things the way I've always done them.
That's it. Big, brave girl. Big, brave girl.
You'll have to convince yourself. I can't do it for you. I can love you and I can beg you to not go, but you have to choose. Either you trust me or you don't. Either you love me and you want to try or you don't. It's simple, really.
Simple.
Yes, simple. Choose one or the other. The choosing is simple. The rest of it will feel like crawling over broken glass. I want to be with you. I want you to want to be with me, but I don't want to live with someone who can't unpack. I want you here, and I want your stuff out of those boxes, and when you're done, I want you to throw the boxes away. All of them.
All of them.
All.
You're demanding.
Maybe.
I don't trust people. I hear what you're saying about loving me and everything. But when I look at you, I think you're someone else. I think you're all the others. And with all this screaming in my head, it all just gets scrambled.
Now, these are not the voices in the head of schizophrenia, but rather it's more like an inner monologue of putting a spin on life experience. It might go something like this. My parents never loved me, so I believe I'm unlovable. You can't possibly love me. Who are you? You are wrecking my neat little system that has always worked for me. Please wreck my neat little system that has always worked for me. I so want to be wrong.
Is there any way I can help you with that?
I don't know, wear a name tag?
How about if I just whisper my name in your ear?
Yeah, that would work.
That would work for me.
You might be like all the others. You might just be softening me up for the fatal blow.
I might be.
Oh, that's reassuring.
I can't reassure you. You think I know how this is supposed to go, don't you?
Yeah, sort of.
I don't know. I feel this enormous pressure to tiptoe around here and not demand anything of you and to do everything right so you don't get scared and run off. I'm sorry that they, your parents, your lovers, all of them, they didn't love you. They're fools. I can't make up for that. I'll do
something's wrong. We'll have some stupid fight about towels left on the bathroom floor, or toothbrushes, or tone of voice, but that's life. That's what happens when ordinary people are in ordinary relationships.
I thought it was special.
They're a pain in the ass.
Are you done?
Pretty much.
Why? Because I can't just stand around here all day. I have things to do.
Big, brave girl.
I've been here before, on this crisp plateau where things swirl and whip and then go very, very still. It is a place of decisions. Hang on to each other or descend alone. When I was first getting to know Kevin, from far away, he looked like a four-season tent, able to withstand the elements and offer shelter. But up close, this pore showing, he looked like he would bleed easily when cut and perhaps have one of those blood disorders that make even a tooth extraction potentially fatal. Still, I've been trying to carve out a place where he can enter. But if he can enter, he can also leave. It's not his fault that he's at the end of a long line of comings and goings. It's hard wanting someone to stay. Maybe even harder to have them actually stay. It always feels so dangerous here. I want to tell him that I can't help him. I don't have the tendon strength or the will. I want to scream, "Save yourself!" I have the notion that things are precious because of their rareness, because of their own rationing. But maybe things are precious because they're precious. Perhaps there's enough to go around. I want to believe. Sometimes he acts like I'm a pier, a sturdy, wooden, slatted thing to walk across without getting his feet wet. His caution and my sensibility don't seem to match. What I'm good at is diving headfirst without knowing if there's water. What he's good at is noticing the way that crows go into a crouch before they fly away from oncoming cars. If this is what we're good at, where can these goods possibly take us? Last week, Kevin told me he watched something on public television about how certain birds mate for real estate. The female bird knows that the male bird who gets her the best real estate may not possess the best gene pool, so she leaves to find a better pool to draw her offspring from, but comes back every night to the best real estate. Fascinating, I say. Thinking it sounds like women I know. I don't want to be like them. I tell Kevin I recently read an article in Fine Gardening about cheating your hardiness zone by taking advantage of microclimates and sinking air. You protect the less hardy plants by planting them amongst the more hardy shrubs, or below rock wells, or in a windbreak. Interesting, he says. And then he says, just for an instant I had this image of you piling up rocks. Yesterday, we were sitting on his couch eating popcorn for lunch, and he tells me a story about a girl on a bus. I was on a bus once, he says, and this girl got on with online skates slung over her shoulders. She sat behind the driver. They talked. The driver began to protest. He says, let me off right now, and you give me minutes. So he does. He lets her off the bus, and we just sit there for a minute. And then we pull away. I look out the window and I see her skating inches from a row of parked cars. She was going so fast. The driver kept shaking his head. She stopped every time that he stopped. Didn't start up again until he was in traffic. She was waiting for him at a spot. When he opened the door for her, she had her skates slung over her shoulder, just like when she got on the first time, and this little smirky, mischievous smile. I asked Kevin if there's some way that he wants me to be. He says, sometimes I think about that girl. All that bravado. I think you're ahead of me, is all. I think you're waiting for me at a spot. I say, I have my own bus story. I'm on a bus that is stuck at a red light. Over and over, the light won't change. I'm sitting across from the bus driver, and he sends me over to the car in front of us to explain to the driver that there is a sensor in the street. That the light won't change if the sensor doesn't feel the presence of a vehicle. Move up, I say. You're too far back. The road doesn't know that you're here. Kevin says, I'm here.
Thursday night, I had a meeting run late. Very late. At least it included dinner. When I got home, the house was quiet. We have this little I left a light on for you light near the back door. I'm sure it's one of those Himalayan salt lamps. I'm sure it's supposed to give off some good vibrational tone or something, and I'm sure my wife told me, but I forgot. Mostly, it makes me feel like I was thought about while I was away. When I entered the bedroom, the bed was full of sleepers. I approached in that silly little way they do in the movies when they're trying to be really quiet. No one stirred. I threw my clothes in a pile by my dresser. I washed my face and I brushed my teeth. I crawled into pajama pants, a t-shirt, and then into bed. And almost immediately, the dog stood up, disturbed and indignant. She seemed unable to believe that I had the audacity to crawl into my own human bed. I heard her down the hall getting a drink of water. She came back later after I had settled, curled behind my legs, and slept the sleep of contented dogs. My wife has no worry lines when she sleeps. She's taking to wearing white cotton gloves to bed. It helps with my cuticle problems, she says. It's like sleeping with a mime, I say. And she laughs until her eyes turn crescent-shaped and crinkles shut as she does her imitation of a mime in a box. I can't believe I have to leave them every day.
Makes her living as an astrologer. She talks to me about things ethereal. She tries to explain the transit of the stars and the retrograde of planets. But it's like when my financial advisor explains something to me. I try to understand it when I'm in the same room, but I can't explain anything about the conversation later to anyone else. We were having coffee. It was November, maybe, or March. And she says, "There is a thinness in the material dimension at this time of year." And I said, "I just insulated my attic." She says, "The thinness allows for an increased time of awareness." I said, "The insulation blocks not only the cold, but also the noise." She said, "There's a doctor who works with cancer patients who says that the way we distance ourselves from life is the same way we protect ourselves from loss." I said, "I have a friend who asked if writers and photographers were similar, and that they both have something between them and other people, a camera or a pen." I said, "My dad helped me reframe the upstairs rooms." I said, "I have such sweet memories of him." I said, "When I was sitting in the newly insulated crawl space, I felt so close to something." She said, "Sweet memories rise in the chest and become tears." I said nothing.
Did you know there is a list of the 100 most commonly used English words ranked by their frequency? Number 1 is, say it with me, starts with T-H, the. The pronouns don't come until almost double digits. You is number 8, he is number 11, she is 46. 46? What year is it? Oh wait, it's all right. I forgot for a second that using the word he has always been inclusive of all of us. We have a language so complicated, there are words only knowable by sight. A couple is called into a conference at school. The teacher tells them their daughter is having trouble with the schwa sound. You know, the schwa, the unstressed vowel sound in a word. The in supply, banana, item. One of the most common occurring sounds in English, and yet not usually taught to beginning readers because it is so difficult to understand. These are good parents. They're concerned. They're going to start working more with the girl at home, so when their daughter decides to hit her baby sister because she's regressing and loses any words she might have known prior to having a new creature in the home, is this a teachable moment? Maybe the mother says, "This is a lesson, honey. We don't hit, and the O in lesson sounds like The girl is 8 years old. We don't hit. There have just been 2 wars going on for all the years she's been alive. We have sounds that are considered long and short, and letters that have to be combined perfectly to produce those sounds. It's a lot to learn, and yet we try to communicate in 160 characters in silence with our thumbs. Then we say we didn't mean it. Number 31 is but, and number 32 is not. Do words retract? Do people really think they can snatch them out of the air like fireflies, force them into lidded jars, and expect no one to notice that they still light up? Perhaps we should be more careful with each other. Please doesn't make the list, or listen, or forgive me. maybe it's a problem of understanding. The speaker implies and the listener infers, and we remain unknown. Or finally, if we can learn phonics and semantics and nuance and temper our fears, if we want to, with effort, we can become known. I played soccer in college. When I was sprinting towards my opponent's goal, I needed my teammates to know I was coming up from behind. With you, I shouted, with you. Number 39 is can, and number 51 is will.
I've been doing this Steven Spielberg thing. My girlfriend and I watched this biography, and there were all these film clips where the main character was staring off, contemplative. He said he loved that shot. Said it gave the audience a chance to get inside the character's head. So lately, I've been staring off. And the things in my head are so... I've been thinking about the African watering hole. How the little springbok who outruns the lion who's going to have her for lunch survives the drought and is sipping water from the edge of the only watering hole for hundreds of miles, and that's where the giant crocodiles live. And that's where my scenario ends. It isn't necessarily a doomsday thing. The little springbok has been having a pretty good run of it lately. I'm not really sure what it means, me thinking about the watering hole. Maybe it's just about cycles or movement. I've been watching the trees outside my window. I watch them move and I say to myself, wind. Not because I can feel the wind. I've been inside behind argon-filled glass because it's been hot as hell for days and the air conditioning is on. But I know that trees don't sway like that for any other reason. And I know that if I walked outside, I would feel this amazing breeze that either felt like it came off of a blast furnace or it would have these moments of cool in it because air currents were colliding. And I would sit and I would wait for the sky to cloud over and the storm to start. I know there are hidden dangers in the world. And I know that trees move in the wind. But can I weave that into something that propels me forward to carry out some sort of task like Tom Hanks in Saving Private Ryan? I think I'm trying to build something. There was this summer in college where I ran a bulldozer. I was clearing timber for a guy to build a house. The thing you have to learn real quick about a bulldozer is that it has a decelerator, not an accelerator. Step down on it, it stops. Take your foot off, it goes! I had to teach myself to go against my automaticity. I watched this YouTube video on memory, some woman from Harvard, I think. Automaticity is a kind of working knowledge where a skill is performed unconsciously, tying shoelaces, riding a bicycle, propelling a thing forward by pushing down on an accelerator. I wasn't really building anything that summer. I was opening up the space for something to be built, and I was unlocking the autopilot in my brain so that I could think about what I was doing and learn something new. These automatic things are a lull. Turn off the coffee pot, lock the door, drive to work, sit at my desk, and wonder, is my house burning down right now? Will the arson inspector be interviewed on Channel 58 and say, the fire wasn't suspicious, there were no signs of accelerant. It started at the coffee pot. Seriously, Spielberg is brilliant. But what does a guy staring off tell anyone, including the guy himself? I can hear my girlfriend. It's so typical of a man to think that a man staring off communicates something. Words, Charlie. Use your words. And I understand. She means use my words out loud, pushing them in her direction so that she can understand me. So maybe there will be a day coming up soon where we can have a quiet moment, assuming I haven't burnt the house down. I'll take a sip of water from the edge of a smooth-rimmed glass. I will contemplate the dangers and choose to propel myself forward and out loud, pushing my words in her direction. I will look directly at her. I will say, I want to build something with you.
You must have meaningful work at midlife. That's what the speaker said at the Creativity and Madness Conference. She later translated that simply as purpose. If not, the consequences could be affairs, depression, anxiety, faulty decision-making, aka the midlife crisis, suicide, affairs, red sports car, and the like. Well, that's all well and good, but my question is, when is midlife? If the adolescent brain doesn't fully develop into a working frontal lobe with good executive functioning until age 25, and the average life expectancy is 78.7 years, then let's just say at age 51, you say to yourself, I hate my work hours, or I need a red sports car, or I'm just not happy anymore, or I don't want to see what happens next in this crazy changing at the speed of espresso on meth world. And you could sit in that place and stay in that place, and maybe some sort of snowball effect might occur. Or you could counter those sentiments with some sort of spiritual belief, or the bootstraps theory. You could adopt the Buddhist philosophy that whatever is presented to you is the lesson you most need to learn, and you could go about learning that lesson. Or you could chant inspirational phrases as motivation. Suck it up, buttercup. Or the lemonade thing. You could adopt a theme song. Maybe something by the Pogues. The one about going down in the mud that's now a Subaru commercial. You could commit yourself to the Sikh idea of Kardi Kala, relentless optimism and ever-rising hope in the midst of adversity. Or you could engage in furtive prayer to your interventionist God. But no matter how much you say to yourself, or how much research you do, It's really just choices, isn't it? The wallowing and or the lifting up. I need a purpose. I think I'm having a midlife crisis, but then I think, do I really want to live to be 102? And because my brain takes that as a non-rhetorical, I start thinking, well, if I was in my right mind. But then the amygdala fires up, the body's alarm system, fight, flight, freeze. And I start thinking about how all my friends and loved ones would be dead, and the kids that can't get a job anywhere else would be caring for me in the Medicare-only nursing home. Because how many 102-year-olds can take care of themselves in their own homes? Except for the ones that Willard Scott announces on the Today Show, sponsored by Smucker's Jams and Jellies, who attribute their longevity to daily whiskey drinking and church going. I've been tired. I have these alternating, I care, I don't care. I care. I don't care. It's been like that lately. I used to be better at one-word summaries. It used to be easier to say a word like lassitude and leave it at that. Maybe the world isn't any different than when that worked for me. I'm just not right. That's all I can say. And maybe this. In all my years of living, I know there is something tender inside all of us that just can't take any poking.
An open letter to the faithful. I used to be a word searcher. I don't mean that I used to circle words in those little books that you would find at the checkout lines of the grocery stores. I mean that I used to circle myself with exactness and specificity. And if I couldn't find that, then silence. I had this theory that at birth we were each allotted a certain amount of words and someone was keeping track. There were rules like you actually had to say the words out loud. Rehearsing them in your head was a freebie. There were exceptions like a, an, and the did not count towards your total word allotment. And you could sing or read poetry aloud as long as it was someone else's words. That too was a 0-word count. I supported my theory with evidence. Mel's dad died mid-sentence, just keeled right over on the factory floor shooting the shit with his son. My friend Karen, driving, then running to her dad's hospital bed. And when she gets there, she says, "Dad, I'm here." And he pats her hand and says, "Of course you are." And the family watches him inhale and exhale and never do anything else again. So, in my theory, heaven was filled with actuaries and accountants, not angels. The tapping of calculators and the whirring of adding machines and the mother of all Excel spreadsheets. And a buzzer that caused a pause. And then the tapping and the whirring and the spreadsheet would continue. Even though I had a vocabulary that could support it, I would use 1 to 3 words when 9 to 13 could add depth or richness or meaning. Consciously or unconsciously, I was asking, is this person or is this event word worthy? I was hoarding words, falling in love with the sentence fragment or the silence. But most of all, I was absent from the experiences of my own life because I was calculating. So theory requires inquiry, investigation, reflection. A good theoretician, like a good songwriter, asks the big questions, like David Byrne. He puts you in that house and in that car with that beautiful wife, and he asks, how did I get here? And how do I work this? And where does that highway go to? Well, I have a question. Are you something first, like taciturn, and then you add the supporting documents, theories, risk-reward analysis, proof? Or are you something else, like effervescent? And then after a time, you feel so other that you must become taciturn? You see what I mean? Are you with me? Yes? No? Hands? No? Oh, okay. Come with me. 1971, Central Illinois. Old farmhouse, bedroom at the top of the stairs, dark paneling, dropped ceiling, a purple shag rug, and a pink flowered bedspread. There are 8-track tapes on the dresser. Bread, Kiss, That Song Beth, Frankie Valli and the Four Seasons. Are you picking up on a theme? The songs are all about women. I like to listen to love songs about women. There's a Bible on the dresser. I went through a phase every night where I read it from 9 to 10, searching to relinquish my search. It's open to Timothy, chapter 2, verse 1. And the Apostle Paul writes, I exhort, therefore, that first of all, supplications, prayers, intercessions, and giving of thanks be made for all. For all. I received a magnetic faith-based dartboard for Christmas or Easter that year, alternating crimson and black sections, words printed in gold, hope, faith, mercy, kindness, long-suffering. And the bullseye was love. My dad hangs it at eye level, and I play around every night before I go to bed. And every night, I go to bed aiming for love. It's Valentine's Day night, 1986. I'm hog-tying and unhog-tying a telephone cord, staring out a window with the edges starting to frost. I am in love with you, I say. But I don't say it like I'm hoarding my words. I say it like I believe that there is a path of hope and love, and that it will admit us, that we deserve to be on it, that my love for her is equal to everyone else's love. But just after I say it, just after I exhale, I hear a buzzer, and I think, calculator, adding machine, spreadsheet. And the creatures who sit on my shoulders to advise and protect me are wailing. They have cupped their hands over their mouths, and they are shouting, circle the wagons! Take cover! You are way too vulnerable out there in the open! Qualifiers, that's what we need, qualifiers. A sentence that starts with perhaps or maybe. Maybe you might be falling in love with her. Or perhaps you are starting to slowly, very slowly, begin the long and arduous process of falling in love with her. Me. These are the moments that the ones with wisdom have told you about. Potentially life-changing either way. I call it the crotch line syndrome. You know what I mean. Have you ever been to the beach? Your skin is so warm from the sun that you have to get in the water. But the warmth of your skin makes that water so cold. So you're wading in, and you're wading in, and it hits your tender parts, and I can only take a breath from your esophagus to your nostrils. And you have a choice to make. You can run back to the beach, or you can dive in. I am in love with you, I say. You can't be, she says. I did not run back to the beach. I already dove. So I waited. I waited. She walked into the water, slow steps, the water not quite thigh high. And she stops. She contemplates her indecision. And eventually, she floats towards me. 2011 was 25 years. 25 years of simple things. Of things that cost everything. Of living. When I was 13 and aiming for love every night, that bullseye didn't have subsections like communication and perseverance and listening and laughter, orgasm, compromise, or the health benefits of chocolate, red wine, and holding hands. You have to work to become wise. You have to grow into that. I used to have 2 rules in relationships. Don't lie to me and don't stand me up. I guess they're still in effect, but I don't think about them that much anymore. Now, she and I have a couple of rules that we've come up with together. The first involves sweaters. If either of us are cold in the house in the wintertime, we must put on a sweater before turning up the thermostat. The second is a mantra. For special occasions, birthdays, or anniversaries, nothing with a cord. If we need a new toaster, or perhaps if the vacuum has caught on fire because it's all stuffed with dog hair, you must go out and get a new one in a timely manner. Even if the day that you plan to replace it is the day that your dad dies, but it's the last day that the #1 rated vacuum cleaner is on sale at Sears. I have a new theory. Longevity in relationships is based in intention. The intention to stay, and the intention to resolve, and the intention to be delighted. So it is our intention to be a place of shelter for one another in a world that is made partially of hate and danger. To fight without blood baths. To dance in the bedroom till she keeps me warm. To touch. We used to sit at Lake Park and read interview magazines side by side, and our legs would touch. It would send a voltage upward. It has put a sear on us that has never come off. When we make soup, sometimes the recipe calls for the stock to be reduced by half. It's distillation. It's savoring the good. It's our intention to savor the good. Some nights, not every night, when I crawl into bed, I think about that dartboard. I no longer aim for love. I aim to be loving. Not every night, but some nights, when I kiss her goodnight, I think, bullseye. And I smile and I sigh as I turn off the lights.
And I might could come no question.